2014 was a year in which I had to be brave on more than one occasion. I lost my dad in July and my mom in August. They passed away 6 weeks apart. My dad was in remission, but his health declined rapidly before passing, and so did my mom's. Her cardiologist said that she died from a broken heart. It was a very difficult time with everything happening so suddenly and unexpected. Later that year, in December, I was going to get married. The time in between went by so quickly, and I was in mourning and then started a new job in September, and we also had to resume wedding planning activities in order to be ready on time. I had been job hunting for around 2 years, which was a source of stress. But in hindsight, it had given me the opportunity to look after and spend more time with my parents. And being able to go with them to their regular checkups helped me to understand their health issues better and how to manage them, especially my mom's chronic condition. I was also able to assist with admin and bookkeeping on a part-time basis for the church for a little while. Unfortunately, through it all, I also had to deal with constant headaches and migraines as a result of the stress. When I started working full-time again, it was quite a shock to my system as a whole, as the job wasn't something I would have thought of doing. But thankfully, I could do it without having to study further. And it was quite demanding since we had to process a high volume of files every day. Also, adjusting to my fellow colleagues' personality wasn't easy, and it was quite a struggle for me to deal with, especially as I had to work with her directly. I would be spent by the end of the day, each day, and coming home to an empty house was also something that took some time getting used to. But thankfully, it wasn't for too long. I also had to go through another stressful move, and going through my parents' belongings without them was rough, to say the least, as I'm quite sentimental and had had a difficult time letting go of things. Our wedding day was an emotional one with my parents not being there, but thankfully my father-in-law was able to attend. He is our daughter Maddie's only surviving grandparent, and the fact that he lives on a different continent makes it difficult for her to have a relationship with him. It's tough when you see and hear about other kids interacting with their grandparents, but we hope that one day Maddie will be able to understand the situation better. By God's grace, I was able to withstand and work through all that had happened in 2014, and I am so thankful to God for being there and helping me through it all.
Thanks, Zelda. All right. So those of you that know me, I want you to fill in a sentence, okay? Caitlin loves. Yes, all are true. But kids is what I was going for. Thank you, Levo. Caitlin loves kids. Okay, you guys know I'm the kids pastor here. I'm all about the kids. And I think I joke that, like, since I was a kid, I was ready to be a mom. Maybe my mom was worried about me, but I waited. And what was amazing was in that season of not being maybe a biological mother, as I look back, I see that God gave me so many opportunities to be a mother. That my calling didn't have to wait until marriage. It didn't have to wait until a baby had my DNA. But actually, when I was in high school, I got to work with kids. I got to mother them. When I finished university, I moved to South Africa because I was free. I wasn't attached to anybody. And I got to teach here. I got to love kids for 2 years and invest in them like they were my own children. Even once I got married, I was like, yes, I'm married. Let's have kids. And then, and then wisely, we were like, we should wait. We should wait a few years. You know, that's like smart because we've never lived in the same country. And so we waited, but I was like, man, God, I really thought now was the time. And then he gave me this job at City Point Church, and I got to be a mother to hundreds of kids that come to our church every Sunday, hugging them, loving them like they were my own, right? And it's such a blessing that it's not even the whole testimony, but I just want to remind you, I know some women, we think we have to get to marriage or we have to get to having my own kids to maybe fulfill this calling that you feel God has put on your life. But in your waiting, he wants to use that calling, okay? So whatever it is that he's put inside of you, it starts today. Don't think you need to wait for that ring. God has something right now for you. So last year, it was finally time. We were like, we're going to start our own family. And so we started trying, and it was such a blessing. We immediately got pregnant. It was like that scared, kind of excited, where you're like, oh, this is happening, like now. But we were so excited. Actually, I missed the women's conference last year because I was homesick, being pregnant. So I was home. I missed this, but we were super excited, getting ready for the baby, and then we went for a scan. And if any of you have done a scan and you get that silence from your doctor, you know, like, that's not good. They're supposed to say something, right? Like, what's going on? So our doctor kind of gave us inconclusive news. It was like, there might be something wrong with the baby. It might be too early. We're not sure what's going on. So we go home confused, scared, like we don't know what's going to happen. Um, and then we went back. And even when we went back, it was like, okay, we think that you've probably lost the baby, but we're not really sure. So we still didn't have clarity. And my husband and I were planning to go visit my family in the US. So we hopped on a plane like 2 days after getting this news, like, you might have a miscarriage any day, or maybe you'll come back and your baby's gonna be fine. So there was just so much unknown in this season. And like, you don't know, do I mourn or do I hold on to like hope? What am I supposed to do? Because I don't even know what's happened. And so it was just like a really confusing time. And I think like in our confusion, we serve a very known God and a God of clarity. And I think it was so beautiful for me to not know what was happening for a few weeks, but to be able to draw close to God in that time and know that I know who you are. I know you're loving. I know you're good. And I know no matter what happens, that you're going to work this for good, because that's the kind of God that you are. So when we were in the US, we were able to get another scan done. And that's when we officially found out that we had lost our baby. It was like obviously really heartbreaking, but at the same time, just seeing God's providence to let me be with my family at that time. I mean, I lived thousands of miles away, and I got to be like right next to my sisters, right next to my friends when I got that news. So it was so amazing to see God's goodness even in the hardship. So let's see. After that, well, just to give a little more information about what happened, I didn't even know this was a thing, but I had what's called a missed miscarriage. They already have miss in the word miscarriage. Now you add another missed. What that means is that my body basically didn't realize that the baby had died. So I still had pregnancy symptoms. I still got positive pregnancy tests, and nothing was happening. So it was, again, very confusing because you feel like, I know the doctor's telling me the baby's not there, but like I feel like they are, like I wake up every day and I feel sick, and I feel like something is still going on. So it took about 2 months actually, where nothing happened, and I finally had to go and have a procedure to finish the miscarriage. So again, it just kind of felt like everything dragged on. We talk about like, oh, I miscarried, but I didn't realize the miscarriage could be like almost a half a year journey that you could be going through. So again, really difficult, but again, I keep saying God is so good because he is. It was, I think, 2 weeks after my surgery, we had planned a wedding celebration. So Daniel and I, we were in this very auditorium, and we got to celebrate our marriage and be with people we love. And we even sang a song called Steadfast. And if you were there, I almost started crying. And the reason was, I mean, yes, I've seen God's steadfastness in our relationship and in our marriage, but at that time, I was just experiencing God's steadfast love in such a confusing time. So it was really beautiful to be able to share that with people and to proclaim God's goodness when I was still deep in my own mourning. So, yeah, I just want to say that the story doesn't end there. Those of you who know me, I'm having another baby. So this one's coming at Christmas. We are very excited. Yeah. So it's been like 1 year, amazing what God has done in 1 year, right? Like I wasn't here last year. going through everything that was confusing and crazy. And now, a year later, I stand here with my next baby number 2 that we can't wait to meet in December. So, but what I want to say is that God's goodness would still be true whether I stood in front of you pregnant right now or not, okay? Because God's goodness is not determined by our circumstances, but we can always see his goodness through our circumstances if you're brave enough to see it. So, yeah, that is my story. I just wanted to share a tiny little thing that I wrote to baby Lun just to make all of you cry. No, I'm going to try not to cry myself. But this was just, if any of you are going through maybe a mourning process, we talked about grief. I think that this was really helpful in my healing process to take time to write to them. So I'm not going to read you like the 10 pages I wrote, but I'll read you a little bit. So, to my dearest first baby, I've always been quick to love, but I had no idea how strong my love could grow in a matter of weeks until you. Thank you for teaching me that there's beauty in brevity. Through your life, I learned how big love can be and the joy of new life. And in your death, I learned the comfort of our God, who truly sees us. I strengthened my identity as a child of God. I learned what it means to truly mourn with those who mourn, and I was overwhelmed by your dad's love and compassion towards me. I saw that light shines brightest in the darkest places. I practiced vulnerability, so thank you, baby Lun. I'm a better woman because God gave me you. You were God's child before you were mine, and so I know that you are home. Love, your mommy.